It just might be the greatest sports franchise in the history of sports. A place where legends are made, and there's always something to talk about. Get ready to immerse yourself in pinstripes. Start spreading the news, hosted by Paul Semendinger and E.J. Fagan, a couple of doctors with a prescription for Yankee fever. And now, here's Dr. Paul Semendinger and Dr. E.J. Fagan. Get ready to start spreading the news.
Yes, indeed. Monday night, Yankees are in the playoffs. Last day of September. This is the Start Spreading the News Yankee podcast. The podcast for the world's greatest Yankee site, Start Spreading the News. Just a reminder that this wonderful program is always brought to you by Artemisia Publishing. You can find their fine selection of fantastic books in a variety of genres. Many, many, many genres at apbooks.net. If you have not checked out the books at apbooks.net for Artemisia Publishing, your life is less full than it can be. I dare say it might even be empty. You need to go there and you need to see their vast selection of great books, including my wonderful novel, Scattering the Ashes, the wonderful book From Compton to the Bronx, which I wrote with Roy White, the least among them, a host of great books, again, in a variety of genres, not just sports, and by I don't know, dozens and dozens and dozens of different authors, not just me. They are very selective. In fact, I've proposed a couple of book ideas over the years, and they've said, yeah, I don't think so. That's not quite up to what we're looking for. So find Artemisia Publishing, apbooks.net, and find yourself and buy yourself a good book. And if you're feeling quite generous, holidays are coming, buy dozens and dozens of my books for all your friends and families. And if you don't like my books, buy them for the people you don't like. Anyway, here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the great E.J. Fagan. E.J., how are you today?
Doing pretty good.
So the Yankees have clinched, and the season is over. Obviously, they clinched, and they clinched home field advantage. You know, some people are saying, I think this is silly, but some people are saying they've played poorly at home. We don't want them to have any extra home games. Do you buy any of that?
No.
I don't either.
I think most importantly, though, that they clinched not having to play the Astros in the ALDS, right? And to me, that's the thing they were playing for these last couple of weeks is, you know, the team that I think really is set up to beat them. They have Framber Valdez, who's going to pitch a lot of games. I don't want to see him twice, the top lefty twice in 5 games. And you may have to do that against Kansas City if they face Cole Reagans. But that's a much less threatening team. The Astros have been one of the best teams in baseball for a couple of months now. And so I hope that the Guardians knock them off.
I do too. We're going to go through our predictions in a couple of minutes. But before we get to any of that, it is time. If I had like a band and banners and fireworks, I would bring all them out in honor of you. And no, EJ, not because you published a great book, not because it was reviewed in National Review, not because you're a great person, not because you're a brand new dad, for none of those reasons, or for none of those reasons exclusively. But there was a time not long ago, probably a year or so, when you said the Yankees should get a new general manager, and that general manager should be David Stearns. And people laughed. Oh my goodness, what a foolish thing. The Mets, under his leadership, in his first year as a GM, and he took a team that way underperformed, and they just reached the playoffs. So what do you think of the Mets?
Well, I mean, I don't want to give them too much credit. They spent a lot of money and won 89 games, I think,
something like that,
after today, still, like, there's a lot of problems with that Mets team, but what a game. I mean, that game one was one of the most exciting possible games. I mean, they're playing for a playoff spot, and the lead went back and forth that many times. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I missed most of it because I'm working again, and then I had to go teach my college class. But I heard enough of the game for the Mets to go up with 6 runs in the top of the 8th, and it's like all glory and Metdom. And all of a sudden, just before I had to turn it off, the Braves got 4 runs in the bottom of the 8th.
And then Lindor hits a big home run in the 9th.
I missed all that part. I'm just like, the Mets just blew it. All right, here's the next thing. I do not subscribe to this theory that if you love the Yankees, you have to hate the Mets. And if you love the Giants, you have to hate the Jets and all this kind of stuff. Why can't a baseball fan say, you know what, I'm sort of rooting for the Mets here. I'm a Yankee fan. I love the Yankees, but I'm hoping for good things for the crosstown team as well. Do you buy this? If you like the Mets, you have to root against the Yankees.
I don't think it's I think because they're in the same city, the rivalry doesn't make a lot of sense. I also don't live in New York anymore and haven't in a long time. And so I don't feel that very much. I will say that like actual rivalries, I get it. So like I'm a New Jersey Devils fan, and I hate the New York Rangers. I'm going to use the word. I have emotion with the New York Rangers, and a little bit to the Philadelphia Flyers, right? So there is some of that, but the Mets, I mean, they're not in the division. They're just across. They play them in a interleague series every year, or two series every year, and in the 2000 World Series, and that was about it.
Correct. I don't think a Yankee fan should automatically have to root against the Mets because the Mets are in the same city. I just think it's silly.
And hey, a Subway Series is still a live possibility, right? So that could be a lot of fun.
And that would be a lot of fun. Now, there have been years when I've hated the Mets. I tell you, you're too young for this, young man. But in 1986, I hated the Mets. As a Yankee fan who hadn't seen a World Series in a number of years, and my team continually falling short, to live through that 86 Met team, that was horrific. I mean, that was just miserable. It
could have been a Red Sox World Series too, right? So
yes. But again, my dad's a big Red Sox fan who's been a long-suffering Red Sox fan, not anymore. But at that point, so I was rooting for the Red Sox in the World Series. Those Mets, oh my God. But as I've grown up, you know what I realized? You know why I hated the 86 Mets?
Why?
Jealousy.
Oh, yeah. That was a miserable time to be a Yankee fan, right? So
yeah. Well, the Yankees were pretty good in 86, but the Mets were just phenomenal, and they kept winning, and they had Darryl.
You have JD Martinez is already gone. There's he's got a lot of work to do. And I think it's cool that they made the playoffs this year. I think Francisco Lindor is just having an incredible season and really kind of put the team on his back. But I don't know how many of those pieces will be around next year. I mean, 2/3 of the roster is going to turn over. I'm not sure, David Stern's kind of put together a fun team, but the Mets have a lot more work to do than like the Yankees do, for instance.
Yeah. You know what? I have been saying for a long time that the Yankee window was closing, and you got to give the Yankees credit here. They opened the window. I think Dominguez was overmatched, in his couple of weeks, offensively and defensively. But that doesn't mean I don't think he's going to be a good baseball player or a good major leaguer. Volpe's still young. They're going to have a younger second baseman. Chisholm is probably going to play third. He's young. You hopefully bring back Soto. He's young.
Well, let me ask you this: how many players over 30 are going to be in the starting lineup in Game 1 of the playoffs?
All right, so let's go through it real quickly. If this was my lineup, Wells is catching. He's under 30.
Yep.
It's either Cabrera or Rice at first. Wouldn't you agree?
They're both under 30.
Okay. Glaber, I think, is under 30.
27.
Volpe's under 30.
Yep.
Chisholm.
Yep. 26.
How old is Alex Verdugo?
29.
All right, so he's under 30. Let's talk about that in a minute. But Judge is over 30. Soto's under 30. I assume Stanton will be the DH.
Yeah, so 2 players. That's crazy. I mean, the Mets are loaded with old guys. And the guys who aren't under 30 are all like 29. They don't have any kind of young players there. So I think it's really, really key. And, when the Yankees make a big offer to Soto, I think either way they'd make the big offer to Soto, and they're already paying him $30 million. So he's not even getting that huge of a raise probably. But they're able to do that and sign some other guys because of the young guys they bring up.
100%.
If they're going to have Hill and Wells and Volpe and Dominguez all making the league minimum next year, maybe Rice, that allows you to go out and spend elsewhere to replace Torres at second base or get an Alex Bregman or something like that to play third base. And, the Mets, they're willing to spend another $100 million on top of the Yankees. So they can do that as well. But I also just trust the young guys to perform. and they kind of have a young core. My one concern is that there's really no one behind all those guys. Spencer Jones is the only other real kind of big hitting prospect that I have a lot of confidence in, and he didn't have an awful year, but he didn't have a good year either. And so I'm not, I don't think you can count on him being a big major league contributor at this point. So it's the Yankees aren't kind of my criticism of Brian Cashman's still there, that he's not good at developing young players, but he did finally find a few, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and the Yankees, the window is open again now. They opened the window, a closed window, a window I thought was getting slammed shut.
I mean, especially if Aaron Judge is still the best player in the world, right? So like that keeps that window open pretty well. You can have Judge and Soto presumably as good as they were this year into the future. I mean, I see no sign of Judge slowing down, and Soto will be 26. So there's a world where this team is still the best team in the American League next year.
Yeah. Oh, and they might be better.
It's not that hard to improve. This team had some holes you could improve, right? You could improve left
field, and they played terribly
lot.
for long periods.
They did, but that's their 94 win team, right? I mean, that's what a 94 win team looks like, is a team that loses a lot of games. And you compare to the teams they might play in the playoffs, they had a better second half than everybody. Better than the Guardians, better than the Orioles, who have been awful for months now. Better than the Kansas City Royals, who had a really good 2 months and then have been awful basically since June 1st. The only team that's really on the upswing in the American League are the Tigers and the Astros.
And they're playing each other, so one of them gets knocked out.
And I hope it's the Astros.
Me too.
So I don't really believe in that Tigers team. I don't know.
The Tigers, I mean, things happen. Let's go through it. Ready?
Yep.
Make your predictions. Orioles against the Royals.
I think the Orioles win that series.
I do too. Okay. Astros against the Tigers.
I think the Astros win that series.
I do too. Orioles against the Yankees.
I want to know, my rule is the Yankees win everything.
So
I'm going to say the Yankees.
Do you really think they're going to
win? Well, I think this is the best team in the American League. And so I think you'd be wrong to make any other prediction. But also, we're Yankee fans. Come on, like
spoiler alert! I have them going all the way. But
yeah, I think that we're biased, and let's be biased for a little bit. And I'm going to say the Yankees are going to win the World Series. So yeah, they're going to win. They're going to win that series against the Orioles. Frankly, I don't think it's even that hard of a series. The Yankees match up really well against the Orioles. The Orioles are awful. Most of their best hitters have been slumping for months. Their pitching staff is in shambles because of injuries. They don't have a bullpen. They just fired their closer like 2 weeks ago. As did the Yankees, but they didn't DFA their closer. They still are keeping him on the roster. That's a team I'd love to play. I'm a little worried about the Royals because you'd have to face Cole Reagans twice in a 5-game series. I'm not really sure how that lines up with the wild card schedule. But presumably that's one of the best lefties in the league, 2 games in a row. And Seth Lugo also did a number on the Yankees. So I think that they won that series against the Royals, so they can still beat them. But that scares me a lot more than the Orioles.
Astros, Guardians.
I think the Astros are better than the Guardians, but that'll be a fun series.
And you think the Yankees will beat the Astros in the playoffs? In the ALCS?
Revenge for 2019. Let's do it.
And 2017. Padres against the Braves.
That's a fun one. I think the Padres are really good.
All right.
They've been really streaking for a while. Yeah. I mean, look, the Braves just had a fun series. I wonder how much that's going to drain them for the wild card game tomorrow. Right.
I know, it's crazy. Mets, Brewers.
I think the Brewers are really good.
I picked the Mets. All right. So we're disagreeing in the National League. Padres against the Dodgers.
That's a fun series. That's a really fun series. Padres.
I picked the Dodgers. This is fun.
Yeah. The problem with the Dodgers is they don't have any pitching.
I know, but
they can hit.
He'll pitch every game.
They kind of hinted that he might be available, which is kind of nuts. Look, Shohei Ohtani is incredible. 50-58, whatever it was season is insane. But they can't pitch, and they're lucky they traded for Jack Flaherty. But besides that, I mean, they really have nothing to throw out. They'll throw out the ALDS. They're gonna have to score a ton of runs, and I think the Padres are kind of good. And they're also just they're a team on the upswing, so I'm excited to watch that.
Brewers, Phillies.
I think you got to pick the Phillies.
I do. That's who I picked too. So
Right.
quick note to the Philly fans, because we are in a number of Philly Facebook pages and things like that, and I think we're on a Philly YouTube page, if I'm not mistaken, because we use the Philly Sports Guys access to publish all this kind of stuff. My good friend Jamie Pags, but I'm happy to put up things that say "Go Phillies" or whatever. That's fine if you want to put that kind of stuff in the comments. It's all well and good. I don't put up the stuff when they say naughty words and swears.
I have some bad
like
news for Phillies fans, though.
Okay, go.
Which is they're going to lose in the ALCS to the San Diego Padres.
Oh wait, so you got the Padres, Phillies. You think the Padres?
I think this is a 1998 rematch.
Padres, Phillies. Yes.
I'll say that
Padres are winning.
My wife is from San Diego. Not a big baseball fan, but she is very competitive. And so if we have a Padres Yankees World Series, that could get complicated. She has a Padres flag that she's waiting to replace our Yankees flag with outside. But I think that could be a really fun series.
All right, so EJ.
By the way, Mike King pitching against the Yankees in the World Series.
That'd be fun. Game 7, Michael King against Juan Soto. The guys traded for each other. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
It'd be awesome if then Soto took him deep. All right, but this might be the most important question I've ever asked. Your wife says to you, EJ, I need you to go to the store. Being a devoted, loving husband, of course, you go to the store to pick up the items your wife needs. She just had a baby. There's an infant in the house. You have to take care of your wife. You take care of your wife always and forevermore. You took your vows, but especially in this time. So you're at the store being a very good husband, doing all the things you should do as a husband. And you know back home is your loving wife and your loving son, your brand new son. And then you come in the house and it's game 7 of the World Series. And your son is dressed from head to toe in Padres gear.
Not going to happen.
What's going to happen here?
Not going to happen. First off, he's currently wearing a Yankees onesie today. And that is all he will be wearing. We want this son to be raised a winner. And so we're raising him a Yankee fan.
Is your wife in agreement with this?
She's not a big baseball person, so I don't think so. But maybe she'll try. I don't know. Most of his clothing is Halloween themed at the moment.
That's great. That's awesome. All right, so we've got our predictions. EJ, thank you very much. Let's move to another topic off the Yankee, Padres, Phillies, and all this kind of stuff. Though he was a Philly. Pete Rose died today.
Yep.
So Pete Rose, obviously a complicated person, a complicated life, an outstanding baseball player. No player in the history of the major leagues has more hits than Pete Rose, a champion many times. I don't think anybody would ever argue that his statistics don't merit inclusion in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But obviously he did all sorts of bad things, including, I think, the cardinal sin, which got him kicked out of baseball permanently, I think is the wording. Tell me if I'm wrong. And that was gambling on baseball in games that he was managing, supposedly, or at least gambling on other teams while he was managing his team. And he was kicked out of baseball for that. Does the fact that he has died change any of the sentiment regarding whether or not he belongs in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. I think I'd love to talk about him as a player too a little bit because
go for it.
I think he's a little overrated. But I think that it is now more important than ever to strongly disincentivize Major League Baseball players from getting involved in gambling, in baseball gambling. We dodged a bullet with the Shohei Ohtani thing. That wasn't really a gambling scandal. It was a theft thing from one person who worked for him. But that could destroy the sport, and it almost did. Almost.
And I agree with you 100% on that. And I think it's going to come. I think there's going to be a time when that does happen.
And the fact that a player as prominent as Pete Rose was banned for life, and that ban stuck, and hopefully will stick after his death, I think is important. And it really does set a precedent that even if it's Shohei Ohtani, that will end in a player being banned for life. And so, or banned forever. And so I think so. Look, I think that, when we talk about the Hall of Fame, it's a museum. There's Shoeless Joe Jackson stuff there. I think it's okay to have Pete Rose stuff there, but I do think that distinction matters because it matters to the players. I think it mattered to Pete Rose. And, one of the reasons why we punish people is to deter others. And I think it's a pretty good deterrence.
Right. When people say the Hall of Fame, they're talking about the Hall of Fame gallery, the plaques. Like you are a Hall of Fame baseball player.
You get to give the speech. You get to do all that stuff.
There's a museum, obviously, that goes along with the Hall of Fame, and that museum celebrates the history of baseball. Yep. And there's lots of relics in the museum of non-Hall of Famers and players, steroid guys. There's all sorts of stuff. Guys,
I haven't been there in a while, and I bet that there's discussions of gambling somewhere in that museum. Right. I mean, that's part of a museum.
It might be part of the museum with the black sock.
Contextualize artifacts.
That is correct. I can't speak that I've seen, recall any stuff about the Black Sox, but I'm almost certain there are things about them there.
I'm sure there
because it's a museum.
Yeah.
And but also the artifacts change, they update it, they because like any museum, you don't keep it the same for decades. You keep changing things. But yeah, I just wanted to. I can't disagree with you about Pete Rose because I agree. I'm very concerned about the such close ties that sports have decided to have with gambling. And I do believe it's just a matter of time before something bad happens. Like this, you're going to find out that a ref threw a game or players threw a game because the money is just going to. The money's just going to be too great to.
And look, we haven't had a serious betting scandal among real important star players since Pete Rose. Right. So it works.
Right. Now, that doesn't mean we can't be like Chris is writing in, rest in peace.
He is a human being, right? Like
sure, he's a human being. Yeah. That's a whole different argument.
Yeah.
Correct. The question is,
this guy wasn't in jail for 30, 40 years. He just wasn't allowed to play baseball, manage baseball teams and go to the Hall of Fame, right? Like it's not that severe of a punishment, but it was enough. It was the best baseball could do.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it changes anything. And I think that incentive or disincentive to gamble or however you want to say it is super important because baseball, like every sport, is just super tied into all this now.
Yeah, so let's talk about Pete Rose as a hitter. Because he's got the hits record. Pete Rose was really bad for a long time.
At the end of his career.
But he had a long end of his career, I think 7 years, where he was playing first base and had a limp bat and was just racking up singles. He knew he could get to the all-time hits record. It helped that he was his own manager. And so he could write himself into the lineup every day. He was a negative wins above replacement level player for the last 6 or 7 years of his career.
Of his last 9 years, starting in 1980, believe it or not, the year he was on the Phillies that won the World Series. In his last 9 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, one of them he was traded. So the numbers it's a total. Let me just see. I hate when they do that.
Around that time, he puts up 800 hits, right? Almost 900 hits.
He's in all of those years. His OPS plus was over 100 only twice from 1980 till the end of his career in 1986. So the last 7 years of his career. And
he was playing first base. And I imagine he wasn't particularly fast anymore, right? He was Charlie Hustle earlier in his life. He was a player manager. And he was racking up a ton of playing time. He was playing almost every day, all of those games, because he could see that he could pass Ty Cobb, right? Like that was the purpose there. I think that he shouldn't have been playing. And I think that in modern baseball, he wouldn't play. I think Derek Jeter could have stuck around and been really bad for a long time, and he could have racked up some hits, but he didn't. If you take away those almost 900 hits, he's got fewer hits than Derek Jeter. I think that Pete Rose is a Hall of Famer. He's an 80-win player, roughly the same as Derek Jeter. He was really good during the Big Red Machine days, and he was great. He played every day. I mean, a lot of blacking from leading the league in things like runs and hits and at-bats, and had some years that were legitimately really good years. But I think I think all-time hits leader, I think, overrates him a little bit. He is a solid first ballot Hall of Famer.
without the gambling.
And I also think I kind of take issue. I took issue with Derek Jeter a little bit toward the end of his career, demanding a spot in the lineup and losing making his team lose games for personal accolades. I think Derek Jeter, for example, should have moved off shortstop before the end of his career, and probably shouldn't have been playing in his last year or two. And he didn't because he had an ego. And I don't think Jeter was chasing accolades. I think he had an ego. And I think Rose was chasing accolades. And both of those are not good. And I think they shouldn't be something that we, honor as a character trait.
Was Jeter chasing 3,000 hits?
No, he was well above that. And when he got his 3,000 hit, he was still good. Jeter, frankly, all the core four were really good late into their 30s, but he couldn't play defense. Frankly, Jeter should have moved to the outfield before, when we traded for A-Rod or something,
You were saying that way back then too.
Yeah, because he was a bad defender. Jeter, when he had some pressure from A-Rod, he actually kind of went to school on defense and got a little bit better. He was really, really awful before that trade. But he was still pretty bad. And he's a big reason why the Yankees had one of the worst defenses in the league in the mid 2000s. And I think that's a story we don't talk about enough about why a lot of those teams failed, the kind of late Joe Torre era teams. They were the worst defenders in the league by a mile. I mean, guys like Alfonso Soriano, A-Rod at third base wasn't great most years. Jason Giambi at first base, Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams playing in center field long after he shouldn't have anymore. You just go down the list. That was a big reason why a lot of those pitchers the Yankees got in the mid 2000s failed, because they just had awful defenses behind them.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Do you think in 2004 Jeter should have been the guy to move?
Yes,
instead of A-Rod?
100%. A-Rod was the best shortstop in the league, and the only reason he didn't move was ego. Look, Derek Jeter won a lot of baseball games, is a hero. There's a lot of good things about Jeter. I don't want to demean him at all. He won 5 World Series and was one of the most important players, maybe the most important player to win those 5 World Series. But he should have moved off of shortstop.
Right. I think sometimes, and I run into this in the comments on Start Spreading the News, so many people are so they don't see nuance. They don't understand that you can be disappointed, or you can say player X should have done something, or player X is hurting the team, without saying, at the same time saying player X is still great. Player X is still a superstar. I still like player X. I don't not like player X. But I think, when it kind of comes to these podcasts and things like that, when you say DJ LeMahieu's washed up, he's terrible, the people, there's a pushback at times, like, how can you not like DJ LeMahieu? He's working hard. Sure he is. It has nothing to do with DJ LeMahieu, the human being. I like DJ LeMahieu. I celebrate how great he was for those couple of years. But he's not great in 2024. And as a fan, I want my team to be great, so I can say I don't want DJ LeMahieu playing. But that's not saying I don't like DJ or I didn't appreciate DJ. Right. And I think you're saying the same thing about Derek Jeter. Great.
One of the great things about sports is that we're ultimately judged by objective criteria. And I think we can objectively say that the Yankees would have been better off had Derek Jeter played other positions. Maybe that's second base. Jeter never had a great arm, and so maybe second base he would have been a little bit better there. Maybe it's the outfield. He was always fast. He was always good at catching fly balls. I don't know. But he was an incredibly gifted hitter and a bad defender at short. And the reason why he stayed at short for so long, similar to the reason why Pete Rose, played, has gold ink on games. Right? He played more games and more at bats than anybody ever. And it was personal. It wasn't about winning games. And those 2013, 2014, 2012 even teams, I mean, he hit in 2012. Jeter was a real liability on those teams. And the big reason why the Yankees, kind of the CC Sabathia, Mark Teixeira era didn't last very long, because a lot of those guys were past their prime. I think Derek Jeter should retired a year or two earlier than he did. Now the injury kind of was a part of that too in 2013. But I think that's one thing you got to remember the guy by. I think today baseball is much more cutthroat than it even was than even 10 years ago. And so I think that he wouldn't have played as many games today. But I look at Yankees decision making around guys like Verdugo, we're going to talk about, right? It took them a while to boot Jose Trevino off of catcher. It took them a while to, or I think Giancarlo Stanton sometimes give him more rope than he deserves. And I think that's a losing mentality. And I think that winning teams don't do that.
I agree. And the Red Sox didn't do that. I mean, they got rid of Nomar, they got rid of Manny. They moved guys when it was time to move guys. I think the Yankees are overly sentimental to a fault when it hurts them. Absolutely, positively. So you're going to disagree with me on this one. I assume we've had a number of discussions. I don't even want to beat this dead horse because we've beaten it to death. But I expressed disappointment in Aaron Judge when he sat on Friday. Now, there were 2 points of this. The one, the Yankees had not clinched home field yet. They had clinched first place, but if they got swept over the weekend, the Guardians could have taken over first place. So he sat in a game when first place home field was not guaranteed yet. The best record was not guaranteed yet. But that's part of it. The other part was there were certain milestones that were in reach. And unlike the discussion we've just had about Jeter and Pete Rose, where they were just hanging on to accumulate or hanging on for ego, Judge was as hot as anybody could be. He had homered in 5 straight games. Yep. If he had homered on Friday, that would have been 6. And if he'd homered Saturday and Sunday, that would have been 8. That would have tied a major league record. He had a chance to have 11 WAR. He had a chance, I think, to have an OPS plus over 200. He had an outside chance if he got a bunch of hits like Ohtani did a couple weeks ago when he raised his batting average 1 million points in a day by going 6 for 6 or whatever he did, or 6 for 8 in 2 games or whatever. He had an outside chance of winning the batting title, which would have gotten him the Triple Crown. And he had a very good chance of getting 400 total bases in a season. All of those, I think, remarkable achievements. And again, it's not like you're putting a guy who's terrible in the lineup. You're putting your best player in the lineup in games you still are supposed to be trying to win. And he had Monday off, and everybody knows he was going to have, if the Yankees won a game, this whole week off. So I just thought, like, here's a chance to do some things, 60 home runs as well for the second time, like really legendary stuff. And doesn't mean I don't like Judge. Doesn't mean I don't think he's a great Yankee. Doesn't mean I don't think he's an MVP and all that kind of stuff. But there was a part of me that was disappointed that he sat down on Friday.
I mean, look, I would have loved to see him hit 60, hit 400 total bases. Look, especially on Sunday with the field conditions.
Sunday's different.
Look, you don't know what the guy's dealing with. You don't know if he's a little banged up and could use the extra rest. And the World Series is what matters at this point. The playoffs are what matter. I want to see Judge face off against, I said the Padres or Shohei Ohtani or whatever in the playoffs. I think I think we should settle for the 2024 season. He slugged 701. The first player to go over 700 other than during the steroids era, I think since since Ted Williams. I mean, just a legendary season, one of the best seasons of all time, even better than his 2022 season, which I call the best non Bond season ever. I think I've been trying to think of like how to express how good Aaron Judge is, and the way I think about this is, he's doing what Barry Bonds did without the steroids.
Mm-hmm.
He's just Aaron Judge sized, and so he can do it.
So
and
let me ask you this.
Into his 30s, yeah.
Because I think I've just, in talking to you just now, and people and I have been going around and around on this. And again, I think we've beaten the dead horse. It's fine. But I think I just got some different clarity. If the Yankees were in 4th place this weekend, would it have been more disappointing for Judge to sit? What I'm saying is, I get it. Rest him, even though he's getting all these days off. So I don't know really how much of the rest means on a Friday.
Yeah, if you're not playing for anything, I think you're right. I think it'd be more disappointing for him to sit because that's what you're in the stands for. You want to see it.
Correct.
A lot of people bought tickets for those games hoping to see Aaron Judge. But Aaron Judge played 158 games this season.
Yeah, that's not the issue. The issue is there's these things that are right here. They're just gotta reach for them and disappointing.
I'm looking at Fangraphs wins above replacement. So if Aaron Judge had an 11.2 season, that's actually including a pretty bad defensive penalty because he was a pretty bad defensive center fielder this year. I think we really need to make that not happen next year. But even with that, 11.2 wins above replacement. This is the fourth best season in the expansion era behind 3 Barry Bonds seasons. The other players that have put up that number, Aaron Judge has the number 6 spot for 2022. Carl Yastrzemski, Joe Morgan, Willie Mays, Cal Ripken, bunch of Willie Mays seasons, and then Bobby Witt Jr. this year.
Wow. Right? You want to hear something funny about Bobby Witt? I'll tell you something funny in a minute.
Go for it.
All right. How do you spell Witt?
Witt.
Right? Are you looking at his stats right now?
Yeah.
All right. It's definitely Witt, right?
Yeah.
There was a catcher named Ernie Witt who spelled it with an H, Whitt, but it's Bobby Witt, Witt. So I don't want to mock out some company or anything, but when I'm running in the morning on my treadmill before work, I have the Major League Baseball network on my TV across the room with no sound on because I don't want to wake up the house or whatever. And there's a commercial for some company that's making all these fancy baseball bats that have statistics on them. And, he did this, American League batting champ, and they spelled Witt with an H. And I'm running and I'm looking at it and I'm going, I always thought it was Witt. And then I looked up later and I'm like, oh my goodness. But they've made these big time commercials and they're advertising these bats that are like $100 each. And they spelled his name wrong. How do you do that?
That's rough. That's pretty rough. I think that I right now we care much more about the playoffs than about the 2024 regular season. But regardless of what happens in the playoffs, this year is going to be remembered for Aaron Judge having one of the great seasons of all time. And I think the great news is that other than the 2 months after he hurt his toe when he returned, Aaron Judge, since the minute he stepped on the field in 2022, has been the best hitter of all time. And it hasn't stopped. I mean, you said he hit 5 straight home runs. Gave home runs in 5 straight games, this week. I think that's pretty cool. And that contract, could have been really bad. And I think it's going to be pretty good. Also, I think Aaron Judge this year guaranteed us Hall of Fame case.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
We talked, years ago on the show about how maybe Judge may not end up in the Hall of Fame, or at least may not earn a kind of 65 plus win career. Well, it sure helps when you put up 2 11 win seasons, right? I mean, that gets you there pretty quickly. So good for Aaron Judge. I think it's going to be remembered as the Judge Soto year, that really incredible year, and hopefully the decade is remembered as the Judge Soto decade.
Yes, the Judge Soto years. Let's hope so. So here we go. The big question then is left field for the Yankees. I'll just see if you disagree with me. You have to play Alex Verdugo if a right-handed pitcher is pitching.
I don't think so. Yeah, good. I don't think it's as easy as a case as I wanted it to be, because Dominguez didn't really hit a ton,
and he didn't field well.
Yeah, he had a couple of errors. I don't think it's. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's a bad fielder. Hadn't played a ton of left field. There was the sun ball. There was one ball that was really bad that he should have caught. I think despite the stats not being very good, it just seems like he can do damage up there, right? He has good at bats. I think that he just wasn't really set up to succeed. He wasn't up for very long. He wasn't given consistent playing time. Like, he was being played every other day.
I agree with all that.
Which is a little weird.
But I think who's the better player right now?
I think it's easily Dominguez, right? Like Dominguez didn't hit while he was up, and Verdugo hasn't hit in 4 months. Right, like there's
but Verdugo not hitting hit better than Dominguez.
Not over the last couple of weeks. I mean, for Alex Verdugo's batting line is atrocious this year. I mean, he has a 291 on base and a 356 slug. I mean, he was as bad as a major league player could be. I mean, this is Aaron Hicks level territory. And I don't think he's a particularly good defender. I mean, he's got a good arm. He doesn't embarrass you out there. He's not going to drop a ball. Doesn't have the range that Dominguez does. He's really slowed down this year. I think maybe you play him against lefties because for Dominguez is pretty bad against lefties.
Yeah, but Verdugo,
so is Verdugo. They don't have a good option against lefties. I mean, John Birdie maybe could play out there. They really are short two batters against lefties. First base is even worse. Maybe you put Dominguez out there and kind of hope that he figures it out. I'm not sure that's a good strategy in the playoffs. I think it will be Dominguez. They've been playing him more over the last couple of weeks. You kind of read between the lines on Boone's comments, and he doesn't want to offend Verdugo, but it sounds like it's going to be Dominguez. I like for Dominguez in the bases. He's been stealing bases and has proven to be, I think, pretty fast. And again, I think that there's a little more there. One thing about Dominguez is he's always had this problem at a new level where he takes a little bit of adjustment time and then he figures it out.
True. Mm-hmm.
And he hasn't had that time. I mean, the Yankees should have called him up much earlier so that they could.
Oh, no doubt. That's a whole different argument.
But I think he could find it in the playoffs, and I don't think you're losing much by sacrificing Verdugo or Grisham. So that's probably what they'll do. What I think is the right move. I don't think it's as easy as a decision as I had hoped. And so if they end up going with Verdugo, I won't be screaming bloody murder, but I'll be a little annoyed.
Interesting, because I think normally I would usually say, yeah, Dominguez, you want to go with the kid. He's got the future, blah, blah, blah. He just, to me, didn't look like he was ready. And since he came up, the Yankees didn't do a good job with getting him ready. So I can't assume that they're going to be able to get him ready. And Verdugo has had very short periods where he stepped up. I don't necessarily believe he will, but at least to start, I think I'd rather give him the chance than Dominguez.
Let me add a couple of things. I think Dominguez is played better than his batting line. I really think you could see him working counts. He didn't look embarrassing up there. And he didn't Verdugo is, hold on, I'm going to kill a fly that's right in front of me. Oh, I don't know why my house has been invaded by flies lately and I don't understand why. Killed about 7 today. I think there's got to be an open hole somewhere in our house. I think that Jason Dominguez is better than his 189 batting average, and not that he will get better, but he has been better than that, and so I think that's why it's a pretty easy decision. That said, he struck out a lot. You're right; he had some bad plays in the field. And I don't think it's crazy to go with kind of the risk averse move, but then I think Verdugo is going to hit a lot of soft ground balls to second base, and that's not fun to watch either.
No, it's not a great decision. Who plays first base for you now?
I think it's a harder decision, because you have this incredible potential in Rice, and you got one game with him in the weirdest weird weather game, getaway day. No one cares. You can't judge anybody by that.
That you don't look at that game at all.
And he had 9 home runs since being sent down, and was really killer in AAA. And then you have Oswaldo Cabrera, who against righties has actually been a solid hitter. And since they stopped playing him against lefties, has had a solid batting line. I think I play Cabrera. I think that's the safe pick because, Rice did look so bad kind of toward the end of his time in the majors. I don't know who you play against righties. They're both awful. I mean, Cabrera's awful against righties. Rice has been awful against righties, both in the majors and the minors.
You mean lefties?
Sorry, against lefties. I mean, I wonder if John Birdie can play first, right? That's a really tough decision. Rizzo, I thought, did not have a good return. I think if he had not been injured, my hot take today would have been play Cabrera over Rizzo against right-handed starting pitching. But he's injured, and I don't think he's coming back. And so I don't know. I mean, your other option is Austin Wells, which actually not the worst idea against lefties. Austin Wells at first and Trevino.
No, it's a terrible idea because he's never played first base.
I think he does have some time at first base. Just remember, we're talking about a really like 300 OPS for Cabrera and Rice. So I don't know. It's really not a good situation. I hope they don't face a lot of lefties.
I'm looking up Austin Wells right now. I want to see if he ever played first base. I don't think he did. I think I looked this up a while back, though it does say catcher, left field, and first base.
Yeah, he played he played like a little bit of first in the minors. They had a million catchers out there, I think.
In his life, he has played 30 whole games, 2 different seasons at first base. He played 2 games. Let's see. First base. He played 1 game in 2020 for Arizona. At first base, he played 2 games.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
For Yarmouth in the summer league, and 27 games for Arizona in 2019 in the NCAA.
I mean, honestly, I would not be shocked if Jose Trevino is actually starting at first base against a lefty.
Jose Trevino, has he ever played first base?
Maybe not, but they got a week. Like, look, these are not good options. But they are really desperate against lefties. I mean, John Birdie is the other answer. Apparently Trent, I think he's played everywhere. I'm
going to look him up because
it's bad. I think that if they get beat by a bunch of lefties in the playoffs, I think we're going to be looking back at the trade deadline and saying, look, Jazz Chisholm was great, fun acquisition. Jazz Chisholm was not what they needed. They needed a righty. And I think Chisholm was a good trade, but like I think that not getting a righty is a big mistake of theirs.
John Birdie has never played first base.
There you go. Right. I mean, someone's going to have to do it. Right. And maybe it's Oswaldo, but that could end up, I mean, we're not even talking about bad lefties. You could be facing Framber Valdez or Cole Reagans. That's their Achilles heel right now. They're going to basically have an NL pitcher at first base for them.
An NL pitcher as a hitter, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Every now and again, I think Andy Pettitte had a hit in the playoffs or the World Series. It would have been the World Series one year, didn't he? I think against the Braves or something like that. One of those World Series.
Yeah, I think Oswaldo's capable of that. His numbers are so bad, and they're good against righties. I mean, that's the thing is he can hit left-handed. I wish they had a platoon partner for him, and then you could have actually a pretty good player if you let those two, him platoon with someone who can hit lefties.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of putting somebody there, even with a week of practice, who's never played there in a game. Then the ball seems to find you, and next thing you know, you lose the game because the ball went through John Birdie's legs because he's never played first base. Like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So, all right, EJ, I don't know what else is there to talk about here. Now we just wait.
I think we should talk a little bit about the strengths, the bullpen. I think we don't have any Jake Cousins news. He has this pectoral injury that's kind of rare in baseball. Sounds like he might be back. I think he played catch or something. I think the Yankee bullpen, I don't know, it feels kind of good right now. And it's weird to say that. Luke Weaver looks nasty.
Luke Weaver looks good.
Tommy Kahnle has been good.
Yeah, everybody keeps saying that. Every time I watch Tommy Kahnle, he throws another changeup, and then somebody hits a 3-run home run.
He is home run prone, and the Yankees as a whole are pretty home run prone in a way that's a little scary. But I mean, the guy's had an ERA under 3 for 3 straight years. I mean, he's been doing this for a while, and it's mostly worked out for him. I think Tim Hill looks pretty good.
Yeah,
I think Ian Hamilton looks okay. Looks better than he did earlier in the year.
He looks better than he did earlier in the year.
And I don't know what to think about Clay Holmes. If you watched his last couple of outings, he's been throwing almost all sinkers, which I think is the right move. I don't know really why he got so slider happy for a while, because he has the best sinker in baseball. So like, throw it. He also was throwing with a little more velocity the last couple of times out. So I think he could be a valuable player. I'm glad he's not closing, because I never really bought the idea of closer being a pressure problem. That the adrenaline is really what's different about being closer. To me, the thing that's different about being a closer is that you've already used all of your other good relievers. And so there's no one to take the ball from you. And so if you're not good, you either have to bring in a not very good reliever or you blow the game. And I think Clay Holmes, I think he could be one of those guys who you may have to bring in Luke Weaver once or twice during the playoffs to save him if he allows a bunch of guys on or whatever, because he's not going to strike out the side very easily. But I also think that Clay Holmes can be pretty good. And I hope that he's kind of figured it out, maybe with a little bit of rest, maybe with whatever they're going to do over the next week. I have some confidence there. So I think the bullpen's the weakest part of this roster, but I don't think it's super weak. You're also going to have Clark Schmidt.
Let me give you an example of what can happen. In 1996, the Yankees acquired this guy named David Weathers.
Yep.
He pitched in 11 games. He pitched 17.1 innings. He allowed 23 hits, 19 runs, 18 of them earned. He walked 14 guys. His whip was 2.135. He pitched to a 9.35 ERA. David Weathers was a disaster, an absolute disaster. And then in 96, he pitched in the ALDS. He pitched 2 games. He won one of them. His ERA was 0. He pitched 2 games in the ALCS. He won one of those games. His ERA was 0. He pitched 3 games in the World Series.
Yeah.
Allowed only 2 hits, 1 run. He did walk 3, but his ERA was 3. So overall, he had 7 games, an ERA of 0.82, a 2-0 record.
Relief pitching is fickle, right? I mean,
that can happen. That could happen.
For all we know, Tim Mesa is going to be a postseason hero.
Oh my God, that's not going to happen.
I mean, like that's why. Yeah, I mean, the bullpen being a strength or weakness is often pretty meaningless unless you have Mariano Rivera back there. It's not. You don't really have any, and no one has any sure things. The Yankees have gotten to a lot of good bullpens this year, but it is the thing that keeps me up at night a little bit. I think the Yankees need their starters to give them some length. They need Clark Schmidt to step up, right? They have some exploitable stuff there, but also every team does. The Yankees were the best team in the American League with 94 wins. They're going to play a lot of 80-something win teams in the postseason, and so there's going to be a lot of flawed teams, a lot of teams that have a bad first baseman or a weak bullpen or don't know who their third starter is or whatever. And that's okay. And it's not really till you face the Phillies that you face a complete team. And hopefully someone knocks off the Phillies and they can go off against the Mets or something in the playoffs.
Well, Marissa would be not happy with you because she loves her Phillies and Eagles. I'll tell a quick funny story. My daughter-in-law is from Philadelphia. So she took the baby twins and put them in Eagle gear yesterday. My son, her husband, isn't really a big football fan. Neither of them are big football fans, but his team has always been the Steelers. And so I saw the picture of the babies in the Eagles stuff. Now, obviously, I'm in New York, in New Jersey, but in the New York area, we don't like the Eagles up here, giant country or whatever. So I said, you can't have your kid in Eagles stuff. Get Steelers stuff. Sort of like the question I was asking you before. They don't really care, just like your wife. It's just fun. She's always said, I like the Eagles. So, okay. I mean, I don't really care about football enough to make a thing, but I did tell them, get the Steelers colors. And I know we have a lot of Philly fans and Eagle fans here, so they're not going to be happy.
I've got a long October worth of baby clothing for the New York Yankees, and so that's what we'll be going with for good luck.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get some baby Yankee stuff for the Twins. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's going to be any objection because I don't think they have any feeling.
You got a Judge onesie and a Soto onesie. Let's do it.
Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah, that's great stuff. EJ, I think we did it. I think we're at the top of the hour, and we don't want to go over. Got to do the right thing. So the next time we're going to talk will be next Monday, and there'll be only one playoff game, right? Don't they play?
They play Saturday
and
Monday. So they'll be playing on Monday when we record.
Yeah, we'll have to be somehow watching that as we do this.
Oh yeah. I with anxiety, right? I mean, playoff baseball is fun, but it's also it's a little rough.
Yeah, and I really can't go on earlier. I actually, if you wanted to, we could record earlier.
No, let's react live. Let's do it. I'm
all right. That'll be fun. Okay, sounds great. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching the Start Spreading the News podcast. Remember, these shows are brought to you by Artemisia Publishing, a great publisher located in New Mexico, all American. And they have a wide selection of great books, including a number of books by me. So buy lots and lots of them, and that would make everybody happy. Have yourselves a wonderful day and a great week. We'll be back here, hopefully talking about a Yankee win that happened and one that's in the